Any 3 minutes, any public comments? Let's move on, approve the meeting minutes.
This is Pat. I'll make a motion to approve.
Ron Stender will second.
A motion and second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Laura Nago just entered via Zoom.
Thank you.
So item number 5, do we have a Dan?
Okay, so I've been sending the finance committee a set of financials every week. I just want to make sure that that's what you're looking for, or is there something else you want? Instead of us constantly just changing things a little bit and taking all the time to do it, we figured we ask you, is this sufficient, or do you want to see more information, less information? What does the committee like? And Sue is here to help answer the Springbok type questions too.
And Steve Corbell too. He's been working with me on trying to put some reports together. So there.
Yep. I'm here.
So I know, so do you guys have any comments, or you happy, or what would you like?
It's more than enough information. This is Pat for what I'm looking for. I'm generally more interested in the bigger picture, the budgets, anything that might affect the upcoming budget and particular changes. And I would be actually more interested in information related to finances as we transition out of the ARPA money being used and what that's going to look like, because a few years ago, we thought that was going to be really challenging. So I'm more interested in the big picture, long-term stuff than the short-term details that are, I think, stuff that we're not frankly involved with. It's kind of nice to know how things are going, but I'd be happy with less too on the day-to-day or month-to-month stuff.
I would say, I second that. There's a lot of line item detail that tends to be more than what I'm looking for. I'm trying to stay high level. So a monthly, report of those high level health and highway, or, the large groups, just boiling it down. And then each one of those, based on what I understand, should have more detailed financials if needed, but like a summary, almost like Pat said, of each group at the month end. That might be a little bit easier for me to digest, and it's a lot.
Yeah,
This is Laura. Oh, go ahead.
I agree. It's a bit much. We keep it simpler. That's. Yeah. Go ahead, Laura.
Laura,
Um,
go ahead.
I'm okay with the detail and everything. I was just looking for more of like what you guys have said, a dashboard for the people who just want to see the smaller detail. I don't need it every week. A monthly summary, like it was previously said, is good. And I guess I could talk offline with somebody to try. I just, my thought was to have us have some kind of dashboard where people who didn't want to dig down into 86 pages of GL could see, here's what our financial picture looks like, and maybe even some direction from Steve, your group, that says these are the kinds of things you should be watching out for, because not everybody ends up knowing what kinds of indicators to watch out for, maybe, if that's clear.
Sure. No, can everybody hear me?
Steve?
This is
Go ahead,
Steve.
Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the feedback, Laura. And I think that's kind of what we're looking for here, is to, instead of guessing what you'd like, to kind of hear from everybody what you'd like to see. And then, so just if I can ask a question, when you describe dashboard, it's probably more of a visual thing, like a graph or something that would probably summarize all that data into a smaller condensed type of a arrangement. And I think, we could potentially, maybe quarterly or something like that. I mean, I don't want to, spend your money unnecessarily. So you tell us the frequency, but, and then possibly more detail at some point in time throughout the year that we could sit down with the committee and kind of give you our view of how things are going and kind of point you in different directions to watch or not watch, or this is good, this is bad, kind of a review. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, and the quarterly is fine by me. Monthly it can be excessive, and quarterly it, helps us to not have to look at it and it make it more useful on a quarterly basis to be diving in. So I'm okay with quarterly frequency, and then because you're the expert, yes, having you kind of point us into some things that at some point during the year maybe that are worthy of mention, and then kind of bubbling those up to our committee.
Sure. And I can tell you, the way we're doing the reports, it's kind of automatically, Tableau is kind of hooked up to your Springbrook database. And so it just does it automatically. So we could just, only send them to you quarterly. There's no election on there for quarterly subscription. We can do weekly or monthly, I think now. But we can certainly, do it at whatever interval you'd like. And so then maybe like a dashboard with some graph type stuff, maybe monthly, and then quarterly, maybe more detail that we sit down. Does that sound?
That's actually what I'd prefer, if we're gonna be watching over the people's money as we're spending it and such. I think we should be able to see it monthly and then have the deeper dive quarterly to make sure that we know any kinds of, like I said, just things to watch out for, basically making sure everybody that's involved has a good overview and knowledge of how all of this works, because sometimes people don't understand.
Sure. No, that sounds totally doable. I appreciate the feedback.
Steve, this is Pat. Just one other note, on the quarterly, depending on the department, they may be, well over the prorated rate, through the year on their budget. Say they've got a lot of capital equipment, they might spend that early or late in the year. So if there's somewhere a note would help us understand why they're, on
Yep.
average ahead of schedule or behind on their budget, those would
Right.
help.
Yep, because not all expenses are 1/12 every month, right?
This is Mike
Yeah.
here. As long as this Springbrook program that we have can spit this out monthly, weekly, or quarterly, and it appears that we have a consensus on a quarterly report here. But is there another parameter that we can put in there, like say, for instance, much like Pat just indicated, that if we have over expenditure here in any program, or say roads or social services or wherever, can we put a red flag there so that it would flag it for us so that we can see that as it comes up on a quarterly basis? Or if something really out of line, that it would kick out a report and let Dan or of course Sue would know that, I'm thinking. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
But that's kind of my thought, so that, yeah, if there's a big expenditure or something unexpected,
Yep.
that it would flag it for us.
Sure. If I could share with you, when I was at the city, we would do quarterly over budget exception reporting to the finance committee. So, kind of the guidelines were for the account, meaning like if it was the police department, in your case, sheriff's department, if the budget for the whole account is okay, we didn't necessarily call that out. If like travel was over and like wages were under or something else, it was balancing out for the account. But if it was over for the account, then we would report that to the committee and put like a little brief description. Or if it was something that looked odd, like I heard mentioned earlier, like if you spent and purchased your capital outlay in January and you're 100% spent in your budget, just kind of some notes to kind of reassure you that, hey, that's not going to be over budget next month, or, that it's normal, so to speak. So yeah, we can start honing in on that. And I think as we go, certainly you'll have questions and maybe there's something that needs a deeper dive. And we can certainly do that with you too. I think it's good for you to be in the know and to understand it, because you're ultimately the group that people would come to say, hey, we need a financial decision made. And I get it. How can you do that unless you know where you are at financially? Right?
And
Well,
can I add something? There are a lot of things that can be changed on those reports. So if initially we put something out that you think you'd like to see an addition, or you would not like to see something in detail or whatever, there's a lot of tweaking that can go on. So we want to prepare those reports for you, so you're getting the information that you want, but you're not getting 86 pages of stuff. So please let us know, so that we can do some tweaking with them.
Well, this is Mike again, and I don't want to get into micromanagement as a sort, but like say, for instance, we have a couple of programs here that can over budget quite easily through the court system. If we're transporting over here to sheriff's office, relocating, whatever, those costs can go up and they're uncontrolled. And of course, they have a budget, and all of a sudden their budget is over budget by, say, 25, 30%, 25, 50%. That's a flag to me. Where are they going to get the money to pick that up someplace else within the budget? Typically in the federal government, if you're 15% over, you can move your money around within the budget within, I believe it's 50, used to be 15%. I'm not sure what it is here in state government or our government.
There is a policy in place
You-
that dictates how much we
You
can,
move money around within the
Right.
budget, but once you hit that ceiling, all of a sudden, oh, there's a red flag. Why have you exceeded that? And of course, I think that, well, can be construed as micromanagement, and I don't really look at it like that, but we're here to help them. We're here to help them make money available for them to do their job. And get it done. And with Steve and Mike here as our consultants, if Springbrook could be, what do you call it, programmed to flag these for us, I guess that's what I'm looking for. Thank you. What do you think,
Mike,
Steve?
Yeah, if
Oh,
I can just
Laura.
add something here, this is Mike Konechny. I can show Dan and the committee too at some point, but I had a one-page report that I designed for another county that was fairly easy to prepare. And it showed the major funds of the county and where they're at budget-wise. I think that would make sense to see something like that monthly with a quarterly deeper dive with a narrative, like everybody's saying, where's the problem areas? What's going on here? I think that can easily be done.
Laura, do you have something?
yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we were gonna see something monthly. I don't think it's that we're doing our due diligence if we're not seeing monthly reports. And also when it comes to pieces where, if we're telling a department what to do with their money, or that I feel is micromanaging, but if we're watching to make sure that they stay within their budget, I feel that's underneath our powers and actually our due diligence. So I would hope that this monthly report that is condensed, as Mike just said, and then that deeper dive with the narrative would get us so we are on top of these fiscal issues, because we constantly have things keep getting thrown into our budget after we've approved that, a budget, and then it kind of skews everything. So I'd like to get a hold on that.
This is Mike again. I'm getting mixed signals here. I got a couple of board members here that's saying that quarterly is good enough, critiquing the report, and now Laura's saying continue with the monthly.
I just wanted to second Laura's idea that I intended for the quarterly to be a more deep dive. I think monthly, like she said, we should be able to get these emails with these financials. And part of our role is to be on top of that monthly, like Laura said. So monthly to have each individual finance committee member get these financials. And then quarterly to discuss where these heads of these groups, if they're over, they can put some notes together and help us. If there's a issue that one of them came into that we didn't plan for, they can bring it up at that quarterly meeting. So monthly reports provided, but then quarterly deep dives. That's kind of my agreeing with Laura.
Does that need to be a motion or is that just a consensus?
This is just a consensus. You know, Mike and Steve and Sue will get working on that. And, you know, we'll bring you next month, we'll give you the first monthly one. And then at the next meeting after that, if you want something different, let us know. We'll make an agenda item just for this topic. People can, you guys can say, yeah, I'm happy, this is good, let's keep doing it. Or let's keep doing it for a little while, see how it turns out. And until we really get it to where you want it, but we kind of would rather have the whole group. So it's not,
We'll feel our way through this, Pat.
We approved a capital improvement plan last year sometime. I think it's, maybe on the quarterly, just looking at everything in the context that includes that capital improvement plan. Someone said to me when I was on the city council, something to this effect, and I agree with this to a large extent, is that once the elected body approves a budget, really after that, it's up to the administrator and staff to carry out the budget. If there's something that happens that needs the attention of the elected body, then that should come forward. In this case, maybe start with the finance committee. But otherwise, we should be focusing on things more long-term. So, there's things like buying a grader. That's, comes out of the, capital funds, obviously, and it's part of a long-term plan, the life of that and a tractor for the highway department. But it's hard to look at these budgets sometimes without stepping back at the context of the capital improvement plan and longer term planning, in particular, the ARPA funds going away. So to me, we focus too much on the details of a budget that's been approved, and we're not focusing enough, at least in my mind, what the things I think about of the longer term planning on where we're going, including, are there things that we could do more efficiently? Are there things that we could change to change, the cost of operating the county or bring in more revenue? We sort of get bogged down in the details, and we're not, connecting that to other things. And again, the capital improvement plan is part of that, but I don't know what else we could do to change the, the arc of our finances here, given, levy limits, et cetera. We don't talk about, we've had 2 failed referendums. What are we looking at going forward if we can't pass a referendum? We're not really getting to those discussions. And instead, I know it's nice to see how things are going monthly or quarterly, but we're not balancing that with enough of this long-term things that I would like to see more of.
Just one comment. When I started last year in my role, we didn't have this. And so it's nice that they were able to achieve this. And I think this is a part of managing current expectations. And then what we've been talking about is starting to get this group thinking about our long-term projection. Like, how does Ashland County directionally, from an economic standpoint, want to start putting some arrows out there? Like, what can we start to think about? And so the necessary piece of this was to get the financing kind of understood on this same systems. We can now report on it, which is going to give us a good baseline to see, are we operating within budget? But the direction of the county has now something that we want to focus on this year. And what are some things in this group? This is the wrong spot probably, but like you said, where can we start planting seeds for our future instead of thinking about, oh, we're in the past? So I agree with you, but I also think that it's nice to have this stuff because like I said, when I first asked Dan, what kind of position are we in? He's like, I can't really give that to you. So now I can see it. I can see the balance sheet. I can see the income statement. I can see the expenses. So long-term, our assets are beautiful, but short-term, our revenues are problems, right? And our expenses. So that's really what we're hoping these financial consultants on the next line item can start thinking about. So long-term, we can really start thinking about how we're going to change the direction of Ashland County.
This is Laura. I'll second everything Blake just said. I think we have to keep an eye on those expenses month to month. We don't necessarily have to delve into them month to month if there's nothing that's askew. We do need to keep track of all the different committees that keep adding burden to the budgets that we have already approved. And we do need to do, as Pat said, just continue on with looking ahead and making that plan to make everything better.
I'd like to see the report from Mike, the monthly report he said he made up, and see how that goes, and then something a little more deep dive quarterly.
Yeah, I can send that to Dan after this meeting. It's Washera County's report that they've been using for, I don't know, long time, so.
And I'll just forward that email to the entire committee so you can see it.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to the contract with MWK, Mike and Steve. We had a committee meeting here, executive committee meeting on Tuesday. They adopted that to push it forward here to the finance committee. And who wants to just recap that, Mike or Steve?
I can start out. This is Mike. As you know, we've been working with the county about a year and a half here. And we've been up there, I don't know, 5-6 times, I believe. Anyway, and we've exposed the county to some new systems of receipting and accounts receivable and some things with payroll that I think are very are improving things significantly. But we see the county still has a need to expose more departments to some of these systems and to get the county a little more centralized with some of development of some of this. And so what we're proposing is a significantly reduced time up in Ashland, doing most of it remotely. And at a reduced cost, of course, but there would be reduced travel expenses, which I think would certainly help and help the county out. And we think we can, and the agreement is real short. It's for $15,000 for about 120 hours more for about, I guess, a 6-month period is what I have on there. And I believe, do you have, Dan, did they get that scope of accounting?
Yeah, it's
Consulting
in
assistance?
it's in their packet.
Is in their packet?
Yeah.
And we met with Dan and Sue a couple of weeks ago and then with the executive committee the other day, but we'd like to, I guess, expand or change our scope of what our consulting is a bit. And if you read that, I got a short summary there. Kind of like we would assume the role of a contracted finance director with authority to implement changes in systems and procedures for all county departments. Now, everything we do would, of course, be approved prior by the county administrator, with discussions with the county accountant, with Sue actually, before we would implement these things. And we think, the county clerk and the county treasurer, they have a lot of duties that they normally complete during the year, during the day, during the week. And we think us working with departments directly would improve or speed up some of the timing of what we want to do. And the 4 items I list on here, so the first one sort of falls into what we just been talking about. Complete a monthly analytical review of account balances and propose some journal entries, for possibly correcting some things. But along with that, we could easily add preparation of this monthly summary report. So I mean, that would fit right into that. And then number 2 is working with the county departments to implement, to add more departments to the receipting system. And certainly add more to the accounts receivable process. Currently, only one department is using that now, so. And number 3 is another thing that I've done throughout my career here. Review claims for reimbursement for state aid for completeness, accuracy, and timeliness. So I just think that is one thing. And we brought up to the executive committee how we looked at your reporting for transportation aids last year and saw it was being underreported. And we actually amended a prior year report, and we have procedures in place to do, you're going to get significantly more transportation aid over the next few years because of that. So anyway, that's the kind of things that Steve and I are used to seeing. And then the 4th item is to kind of revamp or look at a budget timeline, kind of more centralized processing of certain items that would work with Dan and Sue again to implement this over the year. So starting maybe a little bit earlier with some information. So I was going to try and keep that short. I guess I didn't accomplish that, but anyway, that's what we have there. So, so we'd like to continue working, and we're extending our contract for 6 months. So that's the bottom line to the whole thing.
With
So-
that being said, that the executive committee did approve and forward that up here to the finance committee for our approval. I believe this needs to go to the, no, it stops here.
Nope.
So,
It's-
yeah.
It's a low
It-
enough
it-
dollar amount that it doesn't need to go to
Any
full board.
questions?
Hey, Mike, I just have one question. So 1 and 4 talked about county officials. I'm sorry, 2 and 4 county departments. I guess I was under the impression that we were trying to all go to the Springboard or Springbrook system. Has there been pushback directly from county officials and department heads? Is that what's slowing this, or is it just lack of kind of, incentives? Or again, I'm just trying to understand, what is it that's held us back there?
Yeah, there's been no pushback in our meetings with the county departments that I've been made aware of. And Steve, I think you would agree with that. Because we have kind of both of us have gone to different departments and worked in different ways. There's been no pushback, but what was, like I said, it's probably been more of, there is no, this is new to everybody. The receipting system is new. It changes the way the county treasurer has to look at things. And I think it's just been the time hasn't always been there to do these things relatively quickly because of the day-to-day and normal duties of county employees. So I think we can, by us working directly, we believe that'll speed up that process.
So just to confirm, the goal would be that you would try to get all county departments onto our system, as part of your contract, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, well, yeah, just to clarify, they are all on the system for budgeting and recording, paying bills and that kind of thing. But they are not on for accounts receivable. That's kind of a big process. We think there should be a countywide accounts receivable system, which the county did purchase, is in the system and only being used by highway right now. But which is working out well, and that's a big accounts receivable system, or that's a big use of it actually. But every department, maybe not every department, most departments do some billing for certain charges. And rather than to do it kind of how they've, I don't know, inconsistently, I guess is what I'm saying. Rather, they should be recorded in the system when the invoice goes out. And the receiving system is in use by, I guess, 3 or 4 departments. And there's probably another 3 or 4 that we believe should be using it. Not everybody would be using that, because if you don't collect any money directly, or it's very remotely, during the year, you would not need the whole system on your books. But there are some departments we think that should happen with. That answer your question?
This is Mike over here again. Let me understand this for a point of clarification. This is a 6-month contract extension for consulting?
Yes.
And you feel confident that you folks can accomplish this in 6 months?
We believe we can accomplish 1, 2, and 3. 4, you'll be right. We can develop the timeline and the process for the budget, but there may be additional time after that we want to be in. We would suggest we be involved until the budget is adopted. But that would be, we'd have to do another extension after June then. I kind of left it at 6 months because that's what I've been doing with our previous ones, but there would be potentially be additional work after this too.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to move on with this?
I do have a couple questions. I'm wondering first why this didn't come through finance first instead of going to exec. And then my other question is, do we have a timeline on these things, and why are we only going for a part of a year plan? I have a feeling as we go through all of these 1 through 4, there's going to be more things that might pop up. And especially having those quarterly reviews, we're going to probably need somebody permanent. And I don't see a cost on this as to how much this is.
There was an addendum to the contract, and that's another document. I don't know, Dan, was that handed out or attached?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay. And so Laura, just so you understand there too, it was estimated at 15,000 for the 6-month period. But we would only charge you what we actually worked. So, and I think we've been consistently under on our numbers. I think, Mike, is that a true statement? I believe.
We were earlier on. I think the last one we were probably closer to, because we spent a little more time on the budget, than we estimated last year. But yeah, we have been under in hours.
I do understand the sentiment of the conversation I'm hearing, though, that and I do agree that Ashland County will need assistance further than just June 30th. And we certainly don't expect to step away. I mean, we'd love to work with you guys. We've enjoyed working with the people in Ashland, and for me professionally, it's nice to see people that are open to change, and you guys certainly have shown that, and for us it motivates us to want to do more and help you more. So I think that's where we're at. So we would certainly we would not object if you wanted to say, well, let's make the contract for the year. Just understand that, then the dollars would probably go up for that too, but only what we would actually work.
Yeah, you guys have been really great about, trying to keep low with us, because as challenged as we are fiscally. And I appreciate all that you've done so far and the direction that you're helping us go now. I don't understand why just 6 months. So I'm putting that out to the committee as to why we would just do 6 months when, like I said, we pretty much know we're going to need the whole year. And then my other question was why this went to exec first. We are the fiscal watchers of our county, and this would seem to come here first.
Well, Laura, I can answer that. There's two reasons why I went to exec first. First, there's an HR component to this contract, and that falls under the purview of exec.
Not really, but okay, go
Oh,
ahead.
Well, they are the HR committee.
Yes, I get that.
And secondly, exec happened to be scheduled before finance. So,
Well, maybe we need to fix those so that way exec is after finance, and it's pretty easy to change those dates on a calendar. But I would just like us to follow processes. If we've got a process, usually this stuff would come to us first. I don't get the HR component thing. If we're just gonna skip over the committees and go to exec for everything, then I'm not certain why we even have the committees. But
well, we're not skipping over to the finance committee. We're debating it right now.
yeah, I know that after the fact, but and this is not something that wasn't gonna get passed through us either, but we've got a policy book, let's follow it. So anyways, I would suggest making this a year-long contract. We know we're not out of the woods with this fiscal issue, and yep, I know this will change the dollar amount, and this would be the place to do that.
Thank you, Laura. Pat?
I think it's worth remembering that Mike and Steve came on board after our chair, Dick Pufall, contacted our state assembly person and state senator and said, look, we're basically broke. That led to the state contacting us and offering a $25,000 grant to start developing a financial plan. And at that time, we had $25,000 to work with. And, Mike and Steve, at that point really had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And they've been working their way through that, and we've been making progress and changing things and updating and stuff. And that's been a lot less expensive than hiring a full-time finance director with that pay and benefits and office space. So, if we can see forward far enough, and the reason I mentioned the history is they really didn't know what they were getting into, except that we were essentially broke and, we had a lot of work to do. If they can see far enough ahead to make efficient use of and identify the most pertinent things that would come in the second 6 months, I'd be happy to look at a year. If it's maybe better to take some time and work through what's on their plate, as envisioned here, and then, develop a plan for the next 6 months, I'm fine with that. But to me, the question would be, do they really know what the next 6 months would look like at this point? And if they do, great. And then if they'd like more time, I'm happy to wait too. But either way.
Are we prepared to make a motion to move along?
This is Pat. I'll make a motion to approve.
What are we approving? Just the 6 months or a year?
6 months, what's in front of us?
This is Blake. I second the 6-month contract.
We have a motion by Pat, seconded by Blake, to go with the 6 month. I'm not sure, estimated $15,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'd just like to clarify that the money from the DOA grant actually came from Clark contacting the DOA. And because we were in big trouble, so.
This
Well,
is,
thank
this
you.
is, yeah, this is Pat. I'd actually like to add or clarify that contact came about because of our state elected officials after being contacted by our chair.
Thank
Okay.
you. Let's move on to item number 7, corner reimbursement. This is another item that was brought to the executive committee, and they've adopted it and to move forward to the finance committee. Thank you, Sue.
I can't hear anything, and so this thing is not in the packet.
No, it's not.
Laura, if you had a computer, can you go to the executive committee packet?
It was in the packet. It was in the.
It was on
packet.
the finance? Let me check and make sure it's in there, Laura.
I just didn't know what you're handing
it
out.
is.
Yep, it's
Seemed
yes,
to
the
be-
coroner's request in the finance committee packet.
Okay. That's why I was inquiring.
So to reiterate, the executive committee reviewed and approved and is forwarding this over here to the finance committee for our approval. Any questions? You want to critique that? Go ahead, Pat.
So for the administrator, does the county offer the coroner office space?
No, the county does not offer the coroner office space, nor are we required to by state statute.
What do other counties typically do?
They do a lot of the smaller counties like Ashland County do exactly. The coroner keeps their own office space.
For IRS purposes, is the amount in here consistent with what a person, if they were itemizing, could deduct for office space if they were working out of their home?
Yeah, she could deduct about that amount if, or, there's a little wiggle room, but she could deduct that amount, yeah.
I guess my thought is, I had one job, I did online and distant learning. The contract specifically said I provide office space. And then when I worked here, my contract, didn't cover that. But I used a room about the same size, ironically, but I had books and papers. I didn't have what she has. I wouldn't want that stuff in my house. So I guess my thought is I would be agreeable to this. I think a person should be offered office space for the work they do with the stuff they have to do that job. And if we're not offering office space, I think this seems reasonable.
Yeah, and Mike had already mentioned this was approved unanimously by the executive committee. I just want to read a little excerpt that I wrote here. The coroner is dedicated a 12 by 12 room in her home, and I'm reading this because this is illegible. This is really bad. She dedicated a 12 by 12 room in her home, supplied with a needed refrigeration unit, a secure record unit, a large storage area for supplies and records, and provided a secured locked venue that is accessible to non-family members who work for the coroner and need access when the coroner is not available. The room is no longer part of her home, but a county office. Thank you.
Blake?
I mean, this seems quite reasonable. I guess she's been doing this for 20 years and we haven't been compensating her.
No, she gets compensated. She gets compensated. She gets her cell phone bill reimbursed, her internet reimbursed.
There's no
Yeah.
rent being paid today.
There's no rent, no.
Okay, so this would now not go back in arrears and compensate. It would just go forward.
Yeah.
And this is a reasonable amount, executive committee.
This is what she's requesting.
Yeah, and I have no problems with this.
And I just do want to make one point for the record. This is about the only thing left we can compensate her with. Because due to state statutes, being an elected official, your wage is set prior to papers being pulled. So this is legally, this is the only other way we can compensate her.
I have a question. Is there not a storage space that is in our county buildings anywhere that this stuff could be stored? Have we inspected this to make sure that it is up to whatever kind of requirements we're supposed to have because of security and things like that?
There is no other space in the county facilities. No, we have not inspected it. It's her statutory responsibility to keep it secure. I have no doubt she does.
Okay, but don't we keep track of everything else that has to be secure too? I'm not asking, I mean, it's our due diligence also, just in case.
I could ask the sheriff's department to go check it out.
My thought is we probably should, otherwise I guess I don't have any problem with this.
So what are you suggesting, Laura, that we secure an annual inspection of the facility?
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with it being in somebody's house. I did not understand that. Somebody just said that she does place boxes in the attic of the courthouse for storage. Oh, that's Lori. Thanks, Lori.
Not anymore, she doesn't. Nothing stored in
I was,
the attic.
I was gonna say nothing belongs up there at this
Yeah.
point. But yeah, it just. I'm actually a little taken aback that this kind of stuff is stored in somebody's house, and I didn't realize that most coroners do this. So I mean, having a county job, especially an elected, is one thing, but having to take responsibility of all this stuff on your own property, I mean, is there do we insure the place, at least that space, so that way if something happens, because it's basically, it's a county space, if it's storing our stuff, do we have enough insurance for this? I mean, have we looked into all this? Because there's
Well, her insurance covers that, but as a function of us paying rent, we'd be reimbursing her for insurance.
okay, for the square footage and such.
Right.
Okay.
Huh?
I'm fine.
You're fine?
Yeah, this is.
Do we have a motion to proceed?
I'll make the motion. This is Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
This is Blake. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Laura, second by Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We need a motion to go into closed session.
I would ask that Lori Schmidt be able to stay, Chris Hoffman, and of course, there's a couple supervisors on here.
Okay, may I ask who is 1962 for the last four digits? I have no idea who that is.
Nineteen sixty-two.
The last four.
715-209, 1962.
Yep, who is that, please?
I guess if they don't answer, we should probably knock them off.
I will put him in the waiting room.
We have a motion to go into closed session.
This is Laura. I'll make that motion to go in closed session.
This is Pat, I'll second.
We have a motion by Laura and a second by Pat to go into closed session. Thank you.
Okay, let me
Can
get, hold on, let me get people into the waiting room, please.
Oh, Lori, you gotta do a roll call first.
Yep, who was the second on that?
Pat, Kenny,
Blake. Okay.
Roll call. Mike Berlin,
yep.
Laura Negro,
Yep.
Blake Ellefson, Pat Kinney,
Somebody got to turn the mic on. Yes.
Ron Stendor,
Yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
let me get people into the waiting room, please.
So, okay, so, and just for the record, Rich Huber and Marty Vitek are in the meeting too. And
And you wanted Chris Hoffman in there
yeah, Chris
the-
Hoffman. Yep.
in the
And then-
meeting.
And then can you pause the video?
Hold on for 1 minute. I'm trying to get my, we're not cooperating here on the computer. Okay, now whoever made the
And then roll
motion
call.
can make it. Who made the
redo-
motion?
Ron Skender made a motion. Did Pat
This is
second?
Laura. I'll second.
Laura second. So now we'll go to a roll call vote.
Mike Berlin,
Here, yes.
Laura Negro,
Yes,
Blake Ellefson,
Yes.
Pat Kinney,
Yes.
Ron Stendor,
Yes.
You had a question, Pat? Suggestion?
Chris, worst case scenario, this is Pat, if Plum Creek divests and it goes into private hands and it's not in forest crop, are any of these parcels, I'm looking at the lower part, is there any potential for any of these parcels to be landlocked?
It would depend on how the ownership broke out. Yeah, there would be potential for some of those parcels to be landlocked.
And if that happens, how does the county get access to them to log them?
My intention is as soon as we complete the sale or complete the purchase, then I'm going to reach out to ATP and try to secure an exchange of easement. They need access through some county land to get to some of their land. So that I would propose exchanging easements
Is that
with
something,
ATP.
is that something we should have done before we close on the sale?
It's something that I could start looking at. At this point, if ATP maintains ownership of it long term, I don't foresee an issue because they're going to need access to do their harvest. So we would just trade opportunities back and forth if they didn't want to pursue an easement. And obviously this will be completed before ATP goes to market, if they're 2 or 3 years out. So, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
So is this committee ready to take the recommendation of the land committee to go forward and purchase this with loan, a loan money,
1-year loan.
a 1-year loan, and forward this up to the county board for next
This
month's
is Laura-
meeting?
this is Laura Negro. I'll make the motion that we complete this purchase recommended by Forestry Committee with a loan and forward it on to the county board.
And to confirm, that's a 1-year loan?
A 1-year loan, yep, sorry.
Thank you.
Ron Stender will second that.
We have a motion by Laura, a second by Ron. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on, health insurance.
I can't hear whoever that is.
Oh, Matt.
Thank you.
Sorry, sorry, has not been uploaded yet, but just this morning we got the brand new update. So we'll have the newest version of this uploaded for you. Basically, we ended the year about minus $20,000. So I think, given the losses we've had over the past couple of years, we're in a great position. But like I said, I literally got this right before the meeting started, so. So I will ask our county clerk to upload the newest version to this meeting, to this packet, so you guys can see it. But I think, I guess we may be over the COVID expenses, and they're looking like it's looking like at least becoming manageable. Yeah, any negative that's not in the hundreds of thousands is pretty good. So,
Any questions? That's information only?
yep, and like I said, we will upload the newest version of this sheet to this meeting packet. So when you go and look, it'll be in this one. It'll probably be the last item, number 14 or something.
Item next is investments.
Again, this is informational only. It's in your packet.
Hey, just one thing on this, interest rates on savings accounts have really gone up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything bad about our current accounts, but we're talking 4.5% on certain money market accounts now at certain financial institutions, which local ones will not honor, probably get to. So we just need to be smart about, rates are going up to 5% on a short-term basis. So if we do have cash in an account, we want to try to make sure we're earning something on that. And so if, I don't know if that helps or hurts, but I just want to throw that out there.
Well, our treasurer is on the Zoom, so she heard the comment.
Moving on to the sales tax report.
And this is good news too. We finished the year higher than last year. So we finished quite a bit higher. 152,000 or 140 and 170,000. Now, as a reminder, we budgeted the 1.6 for this current year. So if it goes higher again, we will have surplus in the sales tax revenue. And that would be my plan going forward, to budget the sales tax lower every year, because we don't know what the economy is going to do in the following year.
So this is Pat, the sales tax increase was, I crunched it, it was 3-point-some% increase in sales tax, which is under the inflation rate. So it would suggest that people are pulling back on purchases a bit. So even though the tax went up,
Right.
it's not keeping up with inflation. And so if people keep pulling back a bit,
Yeah, food inflation is what in particular is what I think is affecting most people, and which is of course not taxed. I mean, I know from experience, I can't get out of Walmart for under $100, you know? So yeah, that's why we're being more conservative with sales tax numbers.
No more question? Good. Thank you. Administrative update.
Well, Mike and Steve covered a lot of it. I guess I'll give you a little bit of an update. So I talked about joint dispatch earlier. So we did apply for that grant with Bayfield County and were initially turned down. They asked us, except they want us to reapply, but they would like more definitive support from both county boards. And I'll be going over more detail in PPLE, but there's still an opportunity there for us to get, we did get the GIS grant. Let me point that out. So the state is helping us upgrade our mapping system, which is great. So we're looking at reapplying under what the requests that the state made for us to do this next gen 911 and do a joint consolidated dispatch. That's one of the reasons why I want to save that money, cash that we have, because if we do this, we're going to have to move fast, and that way we have cash available to do it. And I do think in that sense, it's going to cost us some money, but it's going to improve service dramatically for all of the residents in both counties.
Well, isn't it true that if we have cash available on hand and stuff like that, we can use that for leverage for such things,
Yes, exactly. That's another reason to hold on to that cash.
right?
Generally, these grants have a matching component too.
Mhm.
So if they pay 80%, we need to come, if it's $1 million and they pay 80%, we still got to come up with 200 grand. So that's kind of why I really want to save that cash so we can make the most of those grant opportunities. And this is the next big one. Secondly, I am going to be in Madison next week talking to our state legislators. Yeah. And the main topic of conversation is going to be the tax issue created by the Seventh Circuit Court. Our non-tribal members in the town of Sanborn saw their taxes go up 219%. In the town of Jingles, taxes went up 20%. In the town of Ashland, they went up a little bit. In the town of White River, they went up a little bit. So we're trying to come up with a plan that makes the county whole for all that money that we've been paying out in August settlements to the municipalities, but also keeps the towns whole and the school districts whole. you know, like the town of Sanborn in particular, if they're not able to cover their taxes, tax base, and keep the tax rates for non-tribal members at the uniform standards required by the state, they'll be going bankrupt. So we're trying to figure out a way to keep the towns afloat and not losing money, because we don't want the towns to go afloat, go bankrupt. We want them to continue providing the services to the people who live in those towns. The main idea is to have the state pay us more in share revenue. Give the county a one-time repayment of all lost revenues, but then going forward, increase shared revenue for the affected municipalities. That way, everybody's made whole and going forward, and we abide by the Supreme Court, this appeals court decision. So we're basically looking for tax fairness for everyone, be the tribal members or non-tribal members. We're looking for tax fairness for everyone. And that's gonna be our main topic of discussion.
And this is where we're looking to have Governor Easley put this in his budget.
Yeah, yes, we're talking to both the governor about it, WCA is, and we're talking to state legislators too, because the honest truth is our state legislators get the governor's budget, they throw it in a filing cabinet and start over. So we need to get state legislature on board too. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then I'm sure, as most of you read in the newspaper, if the town of LaPointe is suing the county over the police money. Well, I have made no comment to the press, and my continued position will be no comment to the press. I encourage every one of you to do the same thing. We had, the executive committee did authorize hiring an attorney to represent us. Our current corporate counsel, Max Lindsay, has a conflict of interest and cannot serve as our counsel for this. So we have hired a Tolis law firm. They are the law firm that represents the counties association. You may all know Andy Phillips, that's his law firm. So they will be representing us. The counties association will be helping us in any way possible. And the counties association has indicated that they're willing to help cover some of the legal fees too. But they'll help us with the Department of Revenue and the state legislature if needed, in any other way. Yes, sir.
And I've been asked this, can you tell me what the conflict of interest that Max has?
Yes, Max represents, first of all, his law firm created the original agreement. But his law firm also represents the town of LaPointe Municipal Court. They're the counsel for municipal court at LaPointe, so they can't serve both of us at the same time.
Thank you.
You're chuckling there, Pat. Any other questions? Okay. you
And
wanna set up
Just
the
one
meeting?
comment,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh.
I get a lot of
We-
people that ask me questions about various things, and
Yeah.
obviously there's nothing to talk about with LaPointe, but would it make sense for someone like Dick Pufall or someone like Dan Grady to maybe make a case about what's going on within Ashland County with the Ashland Daily Press? Not even talk about LaPointe, just talk about the statistics of what we're doing, so we can explain to our constituents the situation. I don't think anyone really knows. I'm talking to individual community members, and I'm like, they don't have a clue about what's going on at the county, and then they see this suit in the Ashland Daily Press, and they're on their side, without even understanding the situation that we've been going through for the last 2 years with this discussion. So I don't want to say we put out an article to like bash. I say we just put something that talks about Ashland County, all the good things that are going on, or all the things that are going on, and then it makes the constituents a bit more aware. That's just my thought. I just don't see a lot of participation within the community or within the county with people even knowing, except for us in this little room.
Mhm.
And so I don't know how we make people aware of it, but when the Ashland Press does this, the county looks bad naturally because they're asking the people who are suing for their opinion. And if Dan can't give an opinion, which is the right thing, nobody hears our side. So I want to get in front of some of this stuff so people aren't always thinking that the county's wrong.
As an observation, when the board passed the budget, the reporter from the Daily Press was here, and there was nothing in the Daily Press that reflected any of the discussion that took in place in this room. And so for me personally, the Daily Press can write what they want, and they can choose to ignore what they want and whatever, but I think it would be good to have, say, a monthly article, from the administrator pointing out some things going on with the county and, facts, information, some long-term things looking at. But, I think it's a very slippery slope trying to get journalism out of the Daily Press.
Well, and the cool thing is we all are recorded and every single one of those discussions that we had is online. So people can look and see that, and that also is the newspapers too. So I just, like Dan said, I would just say exercise caution when talking about any of this.
Well, the direction of the executive committee on Tuesday was to say no comment. Because if we were to have any kind of comment at all, it can be misconstrued, it can be turned however you want. And we're not gonna win. And
Oh,
my
we're
my
not.
response is no comment. My attorney talks for me.
Yeah, any comment would come from Andy Atolis Law Firm. That's the appropriate point.
But Pat is correct that all our meetings are public. It's out there. As for Blake, it would be ideal to, talk to our constituents but we're not going to win. Because most often people vote for the underdog, and the underdog at this point in time is a Tom LaPointe, as our constituents see it. And the thing is, when we were in open session here, the county board denied them the $135,000 that they originally requested. And then upon that, in the negotiations at that same meeting, okay,
Is
they
this
wanted
part of the stuff?
$150,000.
Is this part of the stuff we should be careful about?
We're also off the agenda now too.
So
I believe the next item is setting a date.
setting a date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Laura.
No problem.
I need that prod once in a while.
February 23rd.
February. Oh,
Is
I'm
that a
sorry.
Thursday?
Yes, it is, Laura.
Dick's
Okay,
got a
as long as we
comment
keep
here.
them on Thursdays.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep them on Thursdays for you.
Thank you.
Oh,
I can't hear what he's saying.
I'm sorry, Laura, he's asking if it conflicts with conferences. And I'm sorry, let me yield because Chair Prufall has something to say.
Blake, I know what you're talking about. We're getting bad press, getting a bad reputation, and I discussed this with Dan. It's just somehow we should be able to set the record straight. The press reported that we refused to negotiate, which is an outright lie. And the fact that we turned them down on their original request, thinking they would come back with a more reasonable request, which we should
Again, isn't
probably-
this part of the stuff we're supposed to be careful about?
Yes, you are right, Supervisor Nager.
What's going on? I had the floor.
She's just commenting that maybe we don't want to talk in public about some things related to this case until we speak to counsel. That's what her concern is. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, let's just be careful on this stuff.
Okay, thanks, Dick. We got a date set for February 23rd. Are we good with that? Yeah, Blake? Pat, yeah?
Kenny,
good.
if it can, if that conflicts with conferences coming up, I'll let the committee know. We can change the date.
Okay, last motion,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn, sorry.
Blake makes a motion to adjourn. Ron seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Be careful out there.
Laura, are you going to be around? I need to talk to you about something.
Yeah, I'm homesick with a fever, but you can give me a call on my cell phone.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.